All right, we are going to write the formula for sequences that dit dot. Now, dit dot is my slang term. I mean sequences that pop back and forth, positive, negative, or negative, positive. Let me go ahead and tell you this. If a sequence, SEQ, by the way, is the abbreviation for sequence, dit dots, the formula must contain a negative number raised to a letter power. All right, now we're going to refine this idea over the next few days. Right now I want to keep it relatively simple. All right, so I'm going to break it down a little differently than I will a couple of days from now. So right now you have two choices so that I can make this go a little faster for you. To make it dit dot, either raise -1, which is your easiest negative number, to the nth power, which would be your easiest letter exponent, or make it -1 to the n plus 1 power. Okay, those are your choices. I'm going to come back to the sign part in a minute. So what seems to help people is at first, get the pattern of the numbers only. Then we'll go back and get the pattern of the signs. So the numbers are just 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, then 64, etc. So do you see that I'm multiplying times 2, times 2, times 2, times 2? That means this sequence is geometric, and that means the formula is exponential. So when I think exponentials, do you see, oh, 2 to the first, 2 squared, 2 cubed, 2 to the fourth, and can you say, all right, now I've got it. The pattern in the numbers is going to be 2 raised to a power. All right, switch and let's do the pattern of the signs. Sometimes you can collapse this into one big thing, but not right now. We'll get there, so let's take it in baby steps right now. Now the pattern of the signs goes +2, -4, +8, -16, +32, so plus minus plus minus. Now notice, if I start with -1 to the first, that's going to be negative. Then -1 to the second, that's going to be positive. Then -1 to the third would be negative again. Well, if I use the -1 to the n option, that's making my signs dit dot negative, positive, negative, positive. So that's not what I want. So now try the other one. -1 to the n plus 1 would be -1 to the 1 plus 1. That's -1 squared. That's positive. -1 to the 2 plus 1 is -1 cubed. That's negative. Then -1 to the 3 plus 1 is -1 to the fourth. That's positive. Aha! That's it. Now it's going plus minus like I want. So put it all together and you get a sub n equals what you started number-wise, which was 2 to the nth, times the sign part, which is -1 to the n plus 1. Now, I'm going to get rid of this, yes, these sequences are explicit. Let me make some room. I want you to see that if I test my formula, it works out right. So like try that again, test a sub 1. A sub 1 would be 2 to the first times -1 to the 1 plus 1. That is 2 times -1 squared, which is 2. That's correct. A sub 2 equals 2 to the second times -1 to the 2 plus 1. That's 4 times -1 to the third, which is -1. That's -4. That's correct. I've got it. Okay? Now look at the next one. We're going to look at that same thing. Do you see that the pattern in the numbers is the same number pattern? So it's still 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So we've already got that part is 2 to the n. But this time, the pattern in the signs is the opposite. The pattern in the signs go negative, positive, negative, positive. So do you see on this one, the one that we tested that went negative first was the negative 1 to the n option. So here we can travel a little faster and say that means a sub n is 2 to the n times negative 1 to the n. Now I could say then I can collapse that to 2 times negative 1 to the n or negative 2 to the n. You don't have to do that, but that's an option. Now if I test it using the original setup, I could say, okay, well that would mean that a sub 1 is 2 to the first times negative 1 to the first. That's 2 times negative 1. That's negative 2. Hey, yeah, that works on this one. That was the first term. A sub 2 is 2 to the second times negative 1 to the second. That's 4. Negative 1 to the second is positive 1. That's 4. Hey, yeah, that's right. Okay? So again, I'm encouraging you, if one-bit dots, first get the pattern in the numbers, second figure out the pattern in the signs. Are the signs going to be a negative 1 to the n thing or a negative 1 to the n plus 1 thing? And then we'll dive deeper into this later, and I'll show you a little bit more about it. All right, so I'm going to break it down and say, okay, numbers. Don't worry about signs for a minute. Numbers. The numbers go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Hey, I'm adding 1 every time. So again, what I know, arithmetic sequence, linear formula. That 1 that I'm adding every time, which is called a common difference, that becomes the slope. All right? So let me play with it a minute. That means for the numbers, I could say, okay, the pattern in the numbers would be, I'll just say P sub n, is going to be 1 times n plus, and I got to figure out if I add something to compensate. All right? So I've got to start. So P sub 1 would be equal to 1 times 1 plus, I need it to turn out to be 8, so it has to be 1 plus 7 to give me 8. P sub 2 would be 1 times 2, that's 2. Oh, yeah, I need to add 7 again because I need it to turn out to be 9. So is P sub 3 going to be 1 times 3 plus 7? Well, that's 3 plus 7, and that's 10. Yeah, I got the numbers going now. So P sub n, I know, is 1n, which I'll just call n. Now I know that that number you add on is plus 7 every time. All right, got that. Signs. The signs go positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, yada, 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 yada. All right, so I'm wondering, is that the sign pattern that's negative 1 to the n? But negative 1 to the first, if I test the very first one, is negative 1. No, the first one's supposed to be positive. Out. Negative 1 to the n plus 1, let me test it. Well, if I test the very first one, negative 1 to the 1 plus 1 is negative 1 squared. That's 1. Okay, that's true. So now I know it's this pattern for the signs. Put it all together. Get the formula for the whole sequence is the formula for the number part times the formula for the sign part. Test the whole kit and caboodle to make sure you didn't like go off course here. So a sub 1 is 1 plus 7 times negative 1 to the 1 plus 1. That's 8 times negative 1 squared, which is 8. That one works. A sub 2 is, excuse me, sometimes you know the computer does that, 2 plus 7 times negative 1 to the 2 plus 1. That's 9 times negative 1 cubed is negative 1. That's negative 9. Yes, I've got it. So that's it. you are ready to do the first part of the worksheet, problems 1 through 23. See you tomorrow.